Hello there, this is TheReviewSpace coming at you with another top 10, and in this video I'm going to talk about the top 10 games that I don't own anymore. Games that I used to own, and these are some of the best games that I basically got rid of. I don't own it anymore, but they used to be a part of my collection. Let's begin. Number 1. Mario Kart 64. This one came out in '96 on the N64. Yes, the brand new next-gen console of Nintendo in the mid-90s. Mario Kart 64, I believe, was one of the earliest games. It might have been a launch title, and definitely a great kart racing game. This was the first racing game that I really loved and really enjoyed. I don't have it anymore. It's not a part of my collection anymore. I think I sold it a while ago. A few years ago, actually. I got rid of my N64 with all my games from my childhood. So I used to play this game quite a lot, actually, and a great multiplayer, excellent levels, soundtrack, very influential, influenced pretty much every other, kart racing game that would come out afterwards. The Super Nintendo game was good, the initial one that came out in the early 90s for the Super Nintendo, but this one was on the next level. It was just a great game, awesome experience. It was the controls, it was the actual freaking gameplay that made it stand out so much. It's a classic from 1996, and I don't really miss it anymore. I think that I would definitely still enjoy playing it if I had it, but I got so many other kart racing games that have taken its place now. Games like Sonic All-Stars and the Mod Nations and Crash Racing. But this is definitely the first one that made me, whoa, this kart racing stuff is amazing. Alright. Number 2. Super Mario RPG. Super Mario RPG from '96, came out on the Super Nintendo. This is a classic, I guess you could call it a final game for the Super Nintendo, like, what is it, the Swan Song for the Super NES, because this came out the same year that the N64 basically replaced the Super Nintendo. So this was one of the later, final games in the SNES that really made a big impact. So how come I don't own this anymore? I think it just disappeared. We used to have it, it was a part of my collection, and then we had a Super Nintendo, that stopped working. I enjoyed Mario RPG back in the 90s initially, as a kid, as a young kid growing up in the 90s, when the game was only like a few years old at the time. And so our Super Nintendo stopped working, it got fucked up, kind of like a, maybe a 360 would red ring. Well, the Super Nintendo basically stopped working one day, and that was it. It wasn't until many years later that I played a game again on emulator, or on the Super Nintendo emulator via computer. And excellent game, excellent RPG. I don't really see myself going back to this and rebuying this game again, because again, I've played it so many times, and I can just play it on emulator as a Super Nintendo, I think it's SNES 9X or whatever that's called. And it's a fun one though, because this one is your casual RPG. It's not like this incredibly hardcore RPG that takes, 5,000 years to finish with all kinds of different choices. This one is a classic, and it's a game that I used to own, and I just don't have it anymore. It disappeared from my collection. Number 3. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Oh, this one is a big one. It's from '98 on the N64. Just like with Mario Kart, I got rid of it a long time ago and used to have it as a kid, and I used to play it, and it was definitely a good game. It's a classic action-adventure. I was never a big Zelda guy, never a huge Zelda mark, but I recognize, the quality of these Zelda games. They're so influential, and they have such enthralling, music and the characters. Used to have it, don't own it anymore. I can't see myself going back to this and rebuying this game again. I can't see myself doing that anymore. I've moved on beyond Zelda, I don't really mess with Zelda anymore. It was just a part of my, my early childhood. I got other games now that have occupied my, action-adventure tastes. But for its time, this was definitely a big game, very important for the Nintendo company. Number 4, Pokemon Crystal. That's right, Pokemon Crystal came out in 2001 on the Game Boy Color, at least in North America. It came out, I think, earlier in Japan. This was a good one because this was probably my favorite Pokemon game compared to like the first generation, the second gen, and even the third gen. Like, I used to have other games too in the series, but this was the one that I kind of felt a little bit of regret when I got rid of it. I sold it a while ago. It was actually very cheap too. Like, I got rid of it for a very low price. So whoever bought this, the person, got a pretty damn good deal. Because, I mean, this game can probably fetch up $20, upwards of $20 now. And I don't know, it's definitely a classic, great second generation Pokemon title. Had a lot of good improvements from not just the first gen of Blue and Red, but from Gold and Silver. It was just fun. I think, you know, planting the berries and the different creatures and the replay value. Crystal, definitely a classic. I can imagine them remaking the well, actually they did. They already did it with Soul Silver and Heart Gold. Anyway, I can't see myself rebuying Crystal again, but it's the reason why I rebought some other Pokemon games like Black and what's the other one? Platinum. So I actually ended up finding other Pokemon games, like the newer ones, because I missed the experience of Crystal so much. Number 5, Super Mario World. Yeah, this is probably the greatest platformer of my childhood for sure. Originally came out in 1990 on the SNES Super Nintendo, but then I also got it on the Game Boy Advance in 2001, so I had both ports. Just a fun experience. Don't have either copies anymore. I got rid of them, sold them. And Super Mario World was so easy to find too. As a kid, it was just so common. Like, people would just give it away for free. Like, it's not even a big deal. Like, okay, here's Super Mario World, and you can keep it, you know? Because it was such a common game. Everybody had it. Everybody had a copy of it. It, like, came with everybody's Super Nintendo. And it's such a great game. It's an excellent platforming. It's just so damn the music, the gameplay. You know, and a Game Boy Advance copy, I got rid of. I think I even reviewed that. Did I review that here on TheReviewSpace? Maybe a long time ago. I can't see myself getting it again, but I guess you just never know. You can just get it on emulator. That's the thing with these Super Nintendo games, is you just easily download it via emulator, and then that's it. There you go. Number 6. GTA 4 and episodes from Liberty City. I might as well include that in as well, but definitely the GTA 7th gen from, 2008? Yeah, the first GTA 4 experience was from 2000, and then 2010 with the episodes from Liberty City. These are all in the PS3. I experienced it initially on the PlayStation 3. And I kind of missed it, actually. After a while, a few years, I got rid of the games. I think I traded it for some other games. And I sold episodes from Liberty City as well. So I had no more copies of it. So like once in a while, I'll like head into an EB Games or something, and I'll see the collection again, and I'll be like, man, it's only, you know, it's only $20 or $30 or whatever. I can just pick it up again. And so a part of me kind of wants to rebuy it and experience GTA 4 again, but it's like, I've been there, done that. Definitely a fun experience for its time, you know, for like 2008, 2009-ish, around that time, but I don't know. I like the posters. The posters were cool. I mean, you know, the little posters that came along with the games. I hope Rockstar never stops doing that, because it's a gimmick. It's just a superfluous little piece of poster paper, but it's just nice to have like that little memorabilia of when the game came out, and this glossy, colorful little, you know, poster that came along with the games. Number 7. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, yes. Came out in 95 initially on the SNES. Had it on the SNES, had it on the Game Boy Advance. That one came out in 2002, the port. And I don't know what to say. I mean, this is such a fun platformer. It's so different from Mario World, which was basically, technically, that's the first. It's a newer story, and Yoshi's Island is a prequel. I don't know. It's such a fun game. Once in a while, I want to buy it again. I don't have it in my collection anymore. And once in a while I get the urge to buy either Yoshi's Island or maybe even the DS version, the DS sequel. But again, just like with the other Super Nintendo titles, you can just get it on emulator, and within 5 minutes you can just be playing this game all over again without having to rebuy it. It's definitely one of those games that I still get nostalgic for, and I still want to kind of, I want to just play it again, just to get the copy and just fuck with the, the throwing egg system, and just a unique game. I don't know. Number 8, Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005 on the PS2 initially. Well, the GameCube, I should say the GameCube, then the PS2, and then the Wii, and all these other ports later. Yeah, I don't have this. I don't have a copy of this anymore. Funny, because I used to have 4 copies in different points of my life of this game, and I got rid of all of them. That's right. I don't know. I'm always getting rid of RE4. It's a good game, but I mean, it's like I got other sequels and stuff. I got, RE5. I'm content with that, and then I got RE6, which I still haven't really gotten into. I got the Dead Space series, which is a great series anyway. So, RE4, as great as it was, it's definitely one of the best games on the PS2. I just don't find have any great desire to buy it again, so it's out of my collection for now. Don't have a copy of this anymore. Number 9, Donkey Kong Land came out in 95 on the Game Boy. The mid-90s. Damn! This was one of my favorite Game Boy games. I used to have the original Game Boy, the fat black and white one. And Donkey Kong Land was definitely one of my favorite platformers. I liked it better than a lot of the other games on it. It was basically this miniature ported version. It's not even a port, it's more like an original game technically, but it had a lot of similarities to Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. And it was like a smaller version of that on the Game Boy. Just a fun experience, and I think I lost it. Somebody stole it from my fucking backpack. I brought the game and the Game Boy with me. This was in grade 5, way back in, I think, 97, around that. And I was in the 5th grade. Fucking showed it to everybody. I was playing the Game Boy, just enjoying the game, just chilling. Once in a while in school, you want to bring your fucking Game Boy to school, because some people do it, and some of the kids like video games and shit, and would like to talk about games. And then it got stolen. After school, I fucking checked to see my Game Boy. The cartridge was missing, so the fucking asshole who stole it, they jacked the cartridge, the Donkey Kong Land game, but they kept, they did not steal the fucking Game Boy itself. So it's like, and that's it. I haven't seen Donkey Kong Land. I haven't fucking played the game since I lost it back in fucking 97. And I used to play that game so much, so that was a big loss for me. And I don't know, life is weird, because it's like I lose a game like that, I'll fucking, it'll disappear, a game of mine will get stolen, and then maybe a couple of years later, I'll get a free game. I remember getting Donkey Kong Land 3 for free one day, these games, they just pop into my life, oh, here's a free game, I didn't have to fucking pay for it. Somebody just gave it to me as a gift. So that was interesting. So life has a weird balancing thing. I don't know if that, there's such thing as karma, but shit just comes back to you. It's weird. Number 10, Super Smash Brothers. Yes, the first one came out in 99 on the N64. This is another favorite of mine, kind of. I mean, I enjoyed it. I just liked the gameplay, and this was the first time I experienced that brawling style that made the Smash Brothers fucking franchise really popular. So, and I was right there, you know, when the original one came out, the very first Smash Brothers game. Oh, it was a dream game too. It was like a fantasy game. I remember always, because I was always big into fighting games. And so when I was a kid, so around like the 5th grade, you know, 97, 98, around that time, I would fantasize about a fucking, like, special game that included every character from like all these major franchises, and they would fight each other in the in the same game. They would just, it was a collective, you know, it was a very interesting idea. And then it actually fucking happened in fucking 1999 with Smash Brothers. And I was like, holy shit, it actually happened. Like, they actually included all these mascots. So that was a big deal. And so I got the game, I played it, enjoyed it. Multiplayer was off the hook. Very difficult when you're playing up against really competitive people. I was always kind of a newbie at the game. Like, I was never the best. I always, you know, I played with fucking Captain Falcon and his Falcon Punch, and that was always satisfying, but there always seems to be a lot of people better than you at this game. It would just kick my ass. Got rid of it along with my other N64 titles. I don't know, I got tired of it, I guess. And now I got other games like PlayStation All-Stars and shit, and I got the GameCube, I think, is it Melee? Yeah. So I got the sequels and the rip-offs and shit like that, so I don't really have any more need to play this one, the Smash Brothers, the original one. As good as it was, don't need it anymore. And that's it. That's my top 10 video games that I don't own anymore that I used to have in my collection. And they're definitely some of the best ever. They left a big impact on my childhood and my gaming tastes, so to speak. And a lot of it is Nintendo. I mean, that would kind of show you that I was definitely more of a Nintendo kid in the 90s. And I liked the Nintendo stuff, and over time I just ended up getting rid of the Nintendo stuff. I moved on to the more mature games, the more mature consoles and companies like the Sonys and the Microsofts. And I think it's just a part of getting older and seeking more mature themed games. Nintendo, I think, is you know, aimed towards younger kids and more family-friendly franchises. And at some point in your life, you just go like, this, it's getting old. You kind of want to move on to other experiences instead of just the same kiddified, childish franchises like the Nintendo stuff. But they're definitely fun for kids. So I'm not like disrespecting anybody that loves Nintendo, but what I'm saying is it's more for children. Like, if you're a gamer but you're like 10 years old, 11 years old, Nintendo is perfect for you. You know, these games are perfect for that young mind, and they would definitely like influence you. But when you get a little bit older, you want to get rid of it, and you just don't want the same experiences anymore. You know, the same, you know, Zelda and Mario and just, you know, the same stuff. Don't own them anymore. Thanks for watching The Review Space, the most underrated channel on YouTube. For more videos, check out youtube.com/TheReviewSpace.